Hello. And on my luck, this part will be the last part of the case, and it will be pretty short. Just this side of annoying. Oh well. Look at what we got. Miss Bound, are you feeling a little calmer now?
Yes.
Good, then allow me to get to the point. Regardless of your intentions, you broke the law.
Yes, I understand.
Nevertheless, I understand that you did what you did in order to prove Mr. Tangaroa's innocence. Therefore, if the real culprit really is someone else, then we have a duty to reinvestigate the case.
Overruled.
There is nothing to suggest that anything nefarious took place in the official IS-7 incident records. And right now there is nothing to suggest that we should take Miss Bound at her word either. So our first order of business should be to arrest the culprit of the case before us, Miss Bound herself.
Objection!
Official records cannot always be trusted, Judge Gambit. Especially since there are those prosecutors who would think nothing of twisting the facts.
Overruled.
Are you suggesting that the committee at the time overlooked just such a prosecutor?
That's for you and your people to figure out. However, it is a fact that the autopsy report was faked. Seeing as Mr. Frost's body was only found just now.
There really is something of Mr. Von Karma in you, Mr. Edgeworth.
Oh, so exactly.
By continually defying the will of the committee and bending the truth to fit your needs, that's how. Perhaps it is time you understand how the committee sees this case. The committee is willing to accept that Mr. Von Karma falsified Mr. Frost's autopsy report. Even still, Mr. Von Karma only managed to have Mr. Tangaroa convicted as an accomplice. I personally have come to believe that the real culprit behind the IS-7 incident is Miss Bound. Her plan to poison and kill Mr. Gusto today was her attempt to frame him for Mr. Ross' murder.
And this is how the committee sees things, is it?
It is. As always, I act solely in service of law and order.
Sounds to me like that all she is doing is acting in service of the committee and covering up the truth. And if I can't change her mind, there will be no saving Mr. Tangaroa or Miss Bound.
Hold it!
If you accept that Mr. Von Karma falsified the report, then why won't you reinvestigate the case?
Because the goddess of justice is never wrong. The verdict remains true despite...
You're interrupting there for no reason.
The verdict remains true despite Mr. Von Karma's manipulations.
Displayed blatant evidence tampering? You sure your precious goddess is into that? Almost makes you think the committee might have other reasons for not wanting this looked into again.
Further investigation is simply unnecessary, since the goddess of justice has already spoken.
Is that right?
Hold it!
I believe it was a confession that sealed Mr. Tangaroa's fate in the end. The confession secured by Mr. Von Karma, which would surely cast doubt on the final verdict itself.
Overruled!
Samson Tangaroa confessed to the initial investigating officer, one Detective Ian Seidemann. The official records state that it was his interrogations that led to the conviction. Therefore, all I can say to you is the goddess of justice has already spoken. Unbelievable, she just won't budge at all. Are these committee guys really that big of a deal?
In many ways, they are a prosecutor's worst nightmare.
So, kinda like the police are to a great thief, huh?
Funny how you don't seem to have a problem working with the police when it suits you, though.
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that Mr. Tangaroo and Miss Bound killed Mr. Frost together?
Why not? You can even imagine they split their roles as thus. Mr. Tangaroo could have been the one to commit the act itself, while Miss Bound was to remove the body. What? The thought that...
Blech.
What? The thought that we could ever kill Mr. Frost. You stole his corpse and hid it for 18 years. Is it really so surprising that you might be...
Let me read it before you fucking say shit.
Is it really so surprising that you might be considered a suspect as a result?
Miss Bound has freely confessed to all of her crimes. Now is not the time to speculate about what else she might have done in the past.
Very well. And let us pass judgment on what we know she did in the present.
Hold it!
Why would Miss Bound have chosen to frame Mr. Gusto for the murder?
No doubt because he suspected her of being the real culprit. He may have entered what he thought was the window wing simply to see if the Gemini statue was genuine. Little did he know that he would be greeted by a trap designed to silence him, a trap that nearly worked.
Objection!
Do you have any evidence to support that line of reasoning?
Unfortunately, Mr. Gusto remains in critical condition. It will be difficult to prove anything until he regains consciousness. In other words, there is little we can do for now.
On the contrary, there is plenty we can do.
You still have not grasped the situation, have you? Then allow me to spell it out for you. We have all the evidence we need to explain both the IS-7 incident and the poison gas attack.
Hold it!
All the evidence you need?
In the matter of the IS-7 incident, we have a body, a murder weapon, and 2 suspects. As for the poison gas attack, we have the sources of the 2 chemicals and Miss Bound's confession. And as for you, Mr. Edgeworth, you also have enough evidence to see that you yourself will have to answer to the committee in a formal hearing.
What?
Whoa, that doesn't sound good.
Now don't worry, Malzarino. Nothing else, you're always more than welcome at Edgeworth & Co. Your Honor, I'd greatly appreciate it if we could stay focused on the matter at hand.
Of course. Now where was I?
Get the feeling she was the judge in the fucking case.
You have therefore determined that there is no need to investigate either case any further.
Hold it!
You really mean to assert that there are no loose ends left to investigate? None at all?
All of the evidence has been examined at length. There is nothing more to be learned from them. Therefore, I see no need to further prolong this trial. The court finds the defendant Miss Judy Bound.
Your Honor, I'm certain there's something that still needs to be examined.
The hammer's about to fall, Mr. Edgeworth. Only hard evidence can stop it now. Present what you think requires further deliberation now, assuming there really is anything left, that is.
This isn't over yet, not by a long shot. There's still one thing we don't have an answer to, and it's up to me to point it out to Judge Gavel. I don't know. Body needs an autopsy, maybe? After 15 years on the data crime, the statue is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country. The statue is suspended from the time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial. Sent it anyway. I really don't know what to do.
Objection!
I'm really fucking annoyed by this. No. I really don't fucking know what it wants me to do. I need a hint. I'm gonna find my fucking hint.
Oh, magical internet. And what the fuck it wants me to do. Liquid analysis. The liquid analysis. Even be remotely fucking needed. Okay, fine.
Objection!
Okay, let's hear you rationalize this game. I'm afraid there's still one question concerning the IS-7 incident that remains unanswered, Your Honor. Would you mind taking a look at this?
What is it?
They're test results, carried out on the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case in the Winter Wing. As you can see, traces of blood were detected. The question is, whose? Until that question is answered, I hardly think you can claim to have all the evidence.
Fucking reach. There was blood in the Gemini case? Why did I not hear about this from Eustace?
Because Detective Gumshoe informed me of the results directly. I was planning to tell Mr. Winner about it myself, of course.
You kept this to yourself until now, despite having no jurisdiction here whatsoever. Mark my words, the committee will hear more about what you have done here today.
As ever, my interest is in the truth, and if mistakes were made in the past, they must be rectified. If you must report me to the committee, then so be it. But in return, we must be allowed to investigate this case to the very end.
This is not my decision to make. You will need to discuss it with Eustace. Guess who's back, losers? And my good news too. It was a close call for a minute there, but Caramello Gusto is alive.
Gusto.
He made it.
You're the ones who found me. Yep, long time no see, Gusto. You're the attorney's assistant. You've grown, and you have an assistant of your own now. Assistant? No, He hasn't got the gig just yet. This is Gregory Edgeworth's son. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth at your service. Fate moves in mysterious ways. I'm in your debt. If you hadn't found me in time, I wouldn't be here to thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. After all, if you hadn't lived, we wouldn't be able to ask you what really happened 18 years ago. What are you talking about? We figured out quite a bit while you were out cold, including the fact that you're probably the guy who offed poor Artie Frost.
What? Is that true?
Miss Bound set up a very elaborate trap to catch Mr. Frost's murderer. A trap that involved rigging the Pricey's case with poison gas. Perhaps in light of that fact, you could tell us in your own words what happened back then. Or perhaps you'd rather exercise your right to remain silent? Oh, it's not that. Gusto here is a fan of the old meditation. You know, and all that jazz.
Well, sleeping while standing seems pretty cool. That's one heck of a talent.
Except there's no sleeping involved in meditation, Gay. Hey, Gusto, old pal. How about you snap out of it and tell us what went down way back when? I was caught in the girl's trap, so I must be the killer. Is this your idea of a joke? I'm the victim here.
Indeed you are, Mr. Gusto. And there is no evidence that you have done anything wrong yet. Mr. Edgeworth and Mr. Fender are merely speculating. Rest assured that they have no authority here, and that you may pay them no heed.
At least somebody here seems to be on my side.
Judge Verity Gavel. It's a pleasure, Mr. Gusto. I will assist you in any way you may require. Perhaps you could begin by explaining what actually happened 18 years ago to Mr. Edgeworth.
Fine. You want me to prove I'm innocent, Mr. Prosecutor? I'll be happy to.
Objection!
So this is how you mean to play it, Judge Gavel. You're hoping Mr. Gusto will help you to hide what happened instead of trying to correct the record.
I believe only in the ineffable judgment of the goddess of justice.
Except it is us humans who make the actual judgment calls in the court of law. And so long as there are those who would use the law to their advantage, our rulings are fallible indeed. If you would use your position to further obscure the truth, then neither she nor I will forgive you.
We shall see about that.
What do you advise, Judge Gavel?
It would seem that you are under suspicion because it was you who triggered the poison gas. Specifically by opening the Pisces case lid. Would you be so kind as to share why with us?
Understood. I came to see frost sculptures, simple as that. I made a mistake with the opening times and arrived a half hour early. Miss Bound, was there no one at the reception desk at around that time?
They had left the main entrance unguarded and unlocked, just in case the killer made an appearance. I was also busy making preparations elsewhere, all the way up until the gallery's opening. Oh no, there was no one here on the first floor then. But I did make sure that all the wings were locked up tight, all except for the autumn wing, that is.
I see. You did all that just to steer the culprit into the autumn wing, which is precisely where Mr. Gusto went.
Sneaking into a building's pretty suspicious, however you slice it. Silence in the courtroom. I will permit no objections or interventions unless there is some evidence that the witness is lying. Blech. In the courtroom? You know this is an art gallery, right? Mr. Gusto, if you could please continue by explaining why you opened the Pisces case.
I wanted to see Frost work up close. So I went up to the Gemini. Sorry, guess it was supposed to be the Pisces statue. I saw that the lid was frozen on tight, so I grabbed a blowtorch from nearby and tried to open it. I finally got it open, gas came pouring out. Fascinating. This is the sort of flawless testimony attorneys can only dream of.
Yeah, the everything sounds like a lie kind. I am none too satisfied with Mr. Gusto's explanation myself. Alas, there is no evidence to refute it. Come on, there must be something.
It's Pound's story you should be questioning, not mine. I'm not the one who set up the gas trap. You could have killed anybody with that thing.
Objection!
She turned on the sprinklers as soon as the gas was released. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was gunning for the killer and nobody else. That killer being you, old pal. So you believe that self-confessed criminal? Miss Bound is far from blameless in this affair, and she will have to pay for her crimes. But so will Mr. Frost's killer. You seem determined to pin Frost's murder on me, but I had no reason to kill him. And you have no evidence to prove otherwise.
Can we really not prove that he's the killer, Mr. Edgeworth?
Mr. Gusto fell victim to the poison gas, that much is indisputable. And no matter how suspicious his actions in the present may seem, they prove nothing about the past.
Yeah, but then what about you, Mr. Fender? There must be something we can do.
Right, we may not have evidence, but we have plenty of intel. Let's see now. If Gusto killed Frost, he must have had a reason. Claims not to have a motive, but that can't really be true, can it? He did it, he has one. Not many people commit murder just for fun. In fact, your old man had a little back and forth with Von Karma about a probable motive too, remember? How can you possibly say that with any certainty? If their relationship had broken down for some reason. They could very well have been the motive behind this murder. Von Karma wouldn't let us talk to Gusto back then, but we can now. If we can put the pieces together, I think the picture we've been looking for might just emerge. Yes, I think you might be right. We need to think back over everything we know about the IS-7 incident. Especially the questions that never got answered. And the finger marks. Were you the one wearing the gloves? Miss Scone denied the finger marks on the frame were hers. What if they were Mr. Gusto's? Perhaps he had wanted to take a look through the ultimate cookbook for himself.
So he asked me to go put in a new cartridge. He seemed to think there should have been more shots left than there were.
In other words, the film ran out sooner than expected.
Yes, the number of shots he took didn't line up with the number of shots remaining. But he thought maybe he just lost track somewhere along the way.
My father noticed these things for a reason. I just need to piece them together correctly. In the absence of evidence, it's the only way to the truth. Photographing the cookbook's contents would be the perfect way to steal its secrets undetected. What if Mr. Gusto did just that? What if he used Mr. Tangaroa's camera to photograph the book?
It'd be the perfect crime. So much better than stealing it and getting chased by the cops.
A sneaky snapshot or 20, huh? That could work. The only question is, when would he have done it? Good question. What about during afternoon tea? Didn't Alicia say that Gusto and Frost had missed out on a little tea party they had? Which brings me to the next question. When do we know for certain that Mr. Frost was still alive? Then, after the contest began, nobody saw hide nor hair of Frost as he had secluded himself in his room. And the only person capable of entering his locked room was Tangaroa, possessing as he did the only key. Miss Scone, were Mr. Tangaroa's works the only ones you sampled?
No, dear. I couldn't help myself. When I'd finished my afternoon tea, I tiptoed over to Chillywink's room for a little taste too.
Mr. Frost had kept to himself inside his room after the contest had started, but he was gone by the time Miss Scone snuck into it to sample his work. meaning there's a good chance he was murdered before the end of afternoon tea. Who's doing the other two? Question. I guess it is. I get the feeling that the the case is going to end really soon, which is annoying. Mr. Gusto, you and Mr. Frost conspired to create works from the contest together, did you not? So you know my little secret. Mr. Fender was kind enough to inform me. Mr. Frost was in charge of the designs, while you were in charge of the flavour. Is that correct? What can I say? I still had a long way to travel on the road to becoming a master confectioner. But you only collaborated up through the semi-finals. Something changed after that. We both wanted to show what we could do, show that we were better than Tangaroa.
Objection!
Then why did you help Mr. Frost with his entry for the final? What grounds do you have to say that? Your own statement, made to Mr. Von Karma 18 years ago. You told him that you had been working together right up until the day before the final. Mr. Frost's entry was carved entirely from blocks of flavoured ice. Ice which would have needed at least a day to freeze. Those flavours would therefore have already been prepared by Mr. Gusto. Yes, which lines up perfectly with what Gusto told me, that he helped Frost until the day before the final. In that case, why didn't Mr. Frost reciprocate and help Mr. Gusto in return? I can hardly be expected to read the minds of the dead. So, why didn't Mr. Frost help you in return, I submit that your relationship broke down for some reason, and that became the basis of your motive for murder. That's not how it was. Sure, we stopped working together, but it was all perfectly friendly.
Stop working together in a friendly way. Kinda hard to imagine, but okay.
Besides, how do you think I did it exactly? You think I just strolled into Tangaroa's room and killed Frost? I couldn't have killed the man while Tangaroa was in there working on his chocolate pieces, could I? So you see, can't have been me. I wouldn't be so sure. There must be a window of time when Mr. Tangaroa wasn't in his room. And if I can prove that, I can prove that Mr. Gusto had the opportunity to kill Mr. Frost. I wonder what time... What two I have to put together here? We can be sure that Mr. Frost was alive until the beginning of afternoon tea, making tea time the only window during which Mr. Gusto could have killed him.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Gusto's story now, Mr. Edgeworth?
Sadly, I'm afraid I'm still rather unsatisfied. But things are finally starting to become clear, and the truth will soon come to light at last.
Do you mean to say that you uncovered new evidence?
Evidence? No. I was hoping I might convince Mr. Gusto to open up to us about it instead.
Oh, is it mind games time again?
It is. Mr. Gusto, I have a question for you. I said, I have a question for you. What is it? You chose to make your entry for the final on your own. I told you I wanted to test myself. I wanted to prove I was the best in the world.
Objection!
If that were the case, then surely you wouldn't have chosen to cheat in the first place. So tell me, Mr. Gusto, Why did you feel the need to team up with Mr. Frost? "18 years ago, Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost collaborated in the confectionery contest. But why did they work together? And why did they enter the contest in the first place?"
I fucking hate my chess. Does it have to have a timer?
That's the information I need to get out of my opponent somehow. Mr. Gusto seems to have a habit of pretending to be asleep when things aren't going his way. Let's start by focusing on why he chose to work with Mr. Frost. By my hand, now is the time to dig up the truth that was buried all those years ago. Mr. Gusto, what inspired you to collaborate with Mr. Frost? We were acquaintances before we were contestants. He was interested in entering the contest, so we decided to sign up together. And your decision to pair up with a sculptor had nothing to do with your lack of faith in your skills? You don't know me. We joined forces because we wanted to make the most perfect creations possible, that's all. I will expose all your lies in the end, Mr. Gusto. It's only a matter of time. Of course it's not. Sorry, wanted to see if I could do an impression of you. Turns out it's easy. And we divide his time as well, it seems. I need to pick my words more wisely.
Well, he was awake and you said asleep before, so I thought he would be pretending to be asleep, but no, fucking can't, that, can we?
I need to study my opponent's reaction and pick my own responses accordingly.
I had it for a fucking second.
Frost's son and mine were in the same private school, so we got along pretty well too. Oh, so you were just two friends who happened to try for the title of world's greatest confectioner? Pretending to be asleep when the going gets tough won't work on me, I'm afraid. Mr. Frost was a sculptor, Mr. Gusto. I doubt he cared much about winning a title for confectioners. In which case, he probably had a different motive for taking part in the contest, wouldn't you say? Fine. It was me. I wanted that title. Frost was only in it for the prize, the ultimate cookbook. I see. And since your objectives dovetailed so neatly, you decided to work together. But then something happened. A breakdown in your relationship, perhaps. If so, I want to know why. Mr. Prosecutor, I'm still quite unwell after my brush with death. Pushed me too hard. And I'll be on my way back to the medical room. No, wait. You better wrap this up quickly. I'm already dangerously low on patience. Mr. Gusto is trying desperately to make his escape, but he's not going anywhere yet. Not as long as he's still keeping things from me. So let's figure out what he was really after next. There's no time to lose. I need to pick the right line of questioning and fast. You too had your eyes on something other than the title, didn't you? After all, I'm not sure the title of world's greatest confectioner even counts for that much. Now you're insulting the way of the confectioner. My only goal was to win that title. I didn't care about anything else. You have no idea how much it would have meant to me. Look, my sense of design may not have been up to snuff back then, but you should see me now. Oh, so you've improved? You bet I have. I didn't do all that training in Jangfa for nothing. Well, fucking A.
I hate you so fucking much. Why can't you just fucking bloody fucking time limit bullshit?
I looked up to Tangaroa, you know. Spent hours poring over the designs of his work. Even used to watch his show with my son. Sounds to me like Mr. Tangaroa's work was especially influential in your early studies. With his recipe book, you might have even become the best someday. Maybe. The book was a real treasure, no doubt about that. Any confectioner would have wanted it. You claim that your only goal was to win the title. Yet you also seem to have had an interest in the contest's prize, the ultimate cookbook. The greatest collection of recipes by the world's greatest confectioner. Can't say I had absolutely no interest in it. And even if I did, what exactly is so wrong with that? Nothing, I suppose. Only that the book contained recipes for medicines, not desserts. And everyone who entered the contest supposedly knew that. I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere. I can't let him slip from my grasp now. I just need to stay calm and keep the pressure on. Next, let's find out why he wanted the cookbook. Did you know how valuable the cookbook really was? What kind of question is that? It was a collection of Tangaroa's recipes. There wasn't a confectioner in the world who wouldn't have wanted to get their hands on it. I don't have a clue as to how to proceed with this line of questioning. Better try another tack. So your plan was to win the cookbook and use it to help you with your own creations. What else? A book like that could have improved my craft tenfold. You could have made a lot of money if you'd sold it. I don't know much about what was actually in there. But it was worth more than money, I'll tell you that. Come now, Mr. Gusto. I think you know more about the Ultimate Cookbook than you claim. They told us a little about it at the start of the contest. Then you know what kind of recipes it actually contained, don't you? And that they weren't dessert recipes at all. I see you did your homework. Fine. So you know what was really in there. The Ultimate Cookbook, or the Angel's Cookbook to give it its proper title. It's a collection of chemical formulas and ways to synthesize new medicines nobody has ever heard of. And he did know that the cookbook was actually... So he did know that the cookbook actually contained recipes for medicines. This could be an important clue. Did you know how valuable the cookbook really was? What kind of question is that? It was a collection of Tangaroa's recipes. It wasn't a collection I wanted to deploy my clue. I pushed up once. God damn. Fucking crappy ass controls. Your designs may have improved thanks to your training in Jiangfa, but you clearly didn't do enough work on your skills of deception. You already admitted that you knew the Ultimate Cookbook was a collection of recipes for medicines. Statute of limitations is paused if a suspect flees to another country. I just remembered that from the book, so now I know how this is going to end. Just popped into my head there. thereby making your interest not gastronomical but pharmaceutical in nature. You are a confectioner, Mr. Gusto. You had no personal interest in revolutionary new medicines, which suggested your interest must have been personal. Arr. I underestimated you. Fine, you're right. Winning the title wasn't the only reason I entered the contest. I needed one of the recipes in that book. It was for my son. He was sick. He was. Tell me more. That's none of your business. I've told you as much as you need to know. He looks rattled, but I can't let him off the hook. Let's find out what this mysterious illness was. I've almost gotten to the bottom of this. I can feel it. Just a few more moves. Tell me a little more about your son. He was my pride and joy, my biggest fan. And you entered the contest in order to help him. You clearly don't have children of your own. Any father would have done the same. You would have done anything to help him. Anything. You would come see me here at the contest when you two right up through the semi-final. Really? You didn't get in the way of your work? If you were trying to beat Samson Tangaroa, surely you didn't have the time to look after a child. Yeah, well, wanted to do what I could for him. He said he wanted to always be the first to try my creation. You said your son was sick, Mr. Gusto, and yet he was able to come and join you for the contest. It wasn't that kind of illness. Nothing life-threatening anyway. This feels like it could be an important clue. Could you tell me the name of the disease your son suffered from? You're a real cold customer, Mr. Prosecutor. Isn't it enough that he was seriously ill? Why would you force me to tell you more? Time to deploy my clue. You've already shared with me that your son's illness wasn't life-threatening. So why are you so reluctant to share any further details? I picked the right ones here, didn't I? It may not have been life-threatening, but that doesn't mean it hadn't been life-altering. I see. It must have been very hard on both of you. Of course it was. That was why I did everything I could to find a cure. We were desperate. He couldn't taste anything, not even his favorite desserts. As I understand it, the Ultimate Cookbook contains the recipes for a very particular medication, one that Mr. Tangaroa used to cure himself of his own taste disorder. Oh, he had it too. Two, you say? So your son has a taste disorder then, am I correct? How did I let that slip? You've been asking me to believe that you needed to win the cookbook in order to cure your son. But was that really the case? Of course it was. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm not so sure that's true based on everything you've told me. Don't have a clue as to how to proceed with this line of questioning. Better try another tack. And you needed the cookbook to cure your son. Yeah, nowadays you can get the medication he needed anywhere. But back then the book was our only hope. Which is why I didn't dare waste my time on fancy tea parties. I had to give my all to my work. And what about Mr. Tangaroa's work? Surely that tea break gave you the perfect opportunity to go steal a glance at it. What makes you think I had the energy or time to care about what others had made? Yep, still recovering. I think you've made it abundantly clear how much interest you had in Mr. Tangaroa's work. What's more, if you were that determined to win the Ultimate Cookbook, I seriously doubt you would have passed up on the chance to take a peek at your competitors' entries. I'd had plenty of chances throughout the contest to see and sample my rival's work, you know. But each time I did, nothing seemed to have any flavor. Must have been nerves or something. Nothing Mr. Gusto tasted had any flavor. That seems like it could be an important clue. Okay. Time to deploy my other clue. Taste disorders are difficult to live with. It isn't easy not being able to enjoy your food. You should know, after all. You just told me you'd experienced something like that during the contest. You said that nothing you sampled had any flavor. Those were your words, correct? Which would seem to suggest that you were suffering from a taste disorder. A confectioner without a sense of taste. Not exactly ideal. Are you sure it wasn't actually your own condition you were seeking a cure for, Mr. Gusto? I've had enough of your speculations. I managed just fine in that contest. Did all of my own entries, no problems. Got him. Sorry, but I'm afraid you're contradicting your own testimony. You already admitted that you and Mr. Frost had worked together during the contest. It's too late to claim you did it all on your own now. You would have us believe that you are a man of principle, a dedicated student of the confectioner's art. Yet you abandoned those principles and conspired with Mr. Frost to rig the contest. Also, you could cure your own taste disorder. You got me, Mr. Prosecutor. As you said, my sense of taste was shot. My son's was fine. I kept it hidden for so long, 18 years, and nobody knew. Sadly, you can lie to others, but you can't lie to me. Both Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost entered the contest hoping to obtain the Ultimate Cookbook. For the medicine that would cure Mr. Gusto's disorder, and the money it would bring in for Mr. Frost. Thus, an uneasy alliance was forged. And that, I believe, is checkmate. I'll admit it, you're good. I never told anybody any of this, but you figured it all out anyway. It's true. 18 years ago I developed Agusia.
What's Agusia?
It's a taste disorder that makes it so you can't taste anything at all. The confectioner's worst nightmare. Mr. Fender, is this what Mr. Tangaroa had as well? Oh, the big man had what they call dissociated taste disorder. Basically, some things he could taste just fine, while others had no flavor at all. But he suffered too. Can't have been easy. Not when there wasn't a way to cure it on the market. which is why you needed Mr. Tangaroa's cookbook. Do you admit now that that was the real reason you entered the contest? It was only one of the reasons. I wasn't lying when I said I wanted the title. When I put my mind to something, it gets done, and I won't lose to anybody. I may not have been able to taste it then, but I still knew my stuff was good enough to win. Oh, so you went into the final thinking you stood a good chance of winning? Of course. What was it that Fender said about what Mr. Tangaroa thought of Mr. Gusto's creations? Mr. Gusto's creations were a perfect balance of flavor and design, at least up through the semi-finals. But disappointingly, his entry for the final was subpar on both counts. We were told that your entry for the final was far from the prize-winning taste sensation you describe. What happened, Mr. Gusto? What went wrong that day? Fine. You want me to talk, I'll talk, but you're not going to like what I have to say. Ross and I were working together right up through the semi-finals. I handled the flavor, he did the designing. But I wanted to face Tangaroa in the final on my own. No help, just me and my skills. So I helped Frost with his entry, but mine, I did alone. If it didn't taste good in the final, that's on me. What can I say? I lacked training. And that's all there is to it. Happy now? There doesn't seem to be any obvious contradictions in his testimony. Yep, not that I thought it'd be easy to get anything real out of him. He's managed to not let slip what really happened for 18 years after all. Why don't you try pushing him a bit, Malzarino? See if you can't shake something loose. I think I just might have to, Fender.
Hold it!
Frost was in charge of designing the work you both submitted, while you handled the taste. Yeah, he was a sculptor, a craftsman, and his sense of design was second to none. But he was clueless about confectionery, which is where I came in. We each did what the others couldn't. Boy, did you not have an eye for aesthetics, not even for the simple stuff. No. How do you like me now? The national symbol of Zangfar.
Oh yeah, it's a phoenix. That's awesome.
I'll say, pretty different to the stuff you were pumping out 18 years ago. Behold the fruits of my training. I've dedicated my whole life to my craft. But back then we both needed each other's help, so we joined hands until the final.
Hold it!
You were serious about winning the title then? Of course, the art of confectionery is my life. Why wouldn't I have wanted to be crowned the greatest? But I still had a lot to learn back then. Guess it's no surprise my work wasn't up to scratch. But the title wasn't the only thing you wanted. There was the cookbook too. And you wanted the book even more than you wanted the title. Isn't that right, Mr. Gusto?
Overruled!
Mr. Edgeworth, you are badgering a witness who is still suffering the effects of today's attack. I cannot allow this harassment to continue.
I understand, Your Honor, but...
Ignore him, Mr. Gusto. You need not answer that vile prosecutor's question. But please, do continue your testimony in your own time.
Hold it!
So you're saying Mr. Frost didn't help you at all? But he helped you up until then, correct? It's a bit strange for him to stop so late in the contest, no? Strange or not, it's the truth. Could be he had his reasons too. I wouldn't know.
If he's lying, it's gonna be a headache to prove. 18 years is a long time. Unless that gizmo of yours has a built-in lie detector, okay? If it did, I'd have stolen the show from Mr. Edgeworth long before now.
Don't worry, Fender. I can tell when he's lying. No doohickeys assistance required. Please, Mr. Gusto, continue your testimony. And please continue it after I get back from the bathroom. Be back in a minute.
Ugh, that's better.
Hold it!
And yet, I heard that your creations prior to the final were scored highly for their flavour. So what went wrong? Was there some kind of cooking accident on that day? No, nothing like that. It was... I told you I had a taste disorder. My sense of taste failed me. It's as simple as that. But Mr. Frost's entry was complimented on its flavour. Your sense of taste hadn't failed you then. Did something happen overnight?
I don't think he's going to spill any more beans, Mr. Edgeworth.
And perhaps I should ask him about something else. Did something change between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto? Not really. The only difference between the semi-final and the final was that Mr. Frost wasn't helping me.
Hold it!
And his son wasn't there. So you really completed your final entry without Mr. Frost's help. I may not have had his designs to lean on, but I knew I was still solid when it came to flavour. And the visuals were the only thing that changed between the semi-final and the final.
Sure, Gusty, old pal. Gonna have to call you out on that one, I'm afraid. It wasn't just the looks that got a big thumbs down. Come judgment time, it got trashed on flavour too. Doesn't sound much like a winner to me.
And despite his confidence, Mr. Gusto failed on flavour too. The lack of Mr. Frost's assistance shouldn't have affected that. But was there some other difference? An 18-year-old mystery. And the key to unraveling it is finally in my grasp. I just need to remember everything Fender told me about what he and my father discovered.
Hold it!
Blah 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 blah.
You knew Mr. Frost from before the contest, correct? You remembered, I see. My son and Frost used to go to elementary school together.
Hold it!
It was no coincidence that you both entered the contest, correct? Yeah, I heard about it first, then I told Frost. I knew he'd be interested. He was always short of cash from his sculptures. That's right, Mr. Frost was supposedly always in financial trouble, wasn't he?
Cookbook is really worth that much, huh?
I see that gleam in your eye, kiddo. But don't get your great thieving hopes up. It was worth a lot back then. These days you can find most of the stuff in there on any drugstore shelf.
Oh, bummer.
And literally every last contestant over the years had their eyes on that cookbook, I see. An 18-year-old mystery. Yep. I'm gonna have to change this round to the other way. Yes, I am, aren't I? Okay, fine.
Hold it!
Quickly go find this again.
Objection!
I can think of one significant difference between the semi-final and the final, Mr. Gusto. Your son. This is him in the photograph, correct? You told me he was here with you up through the semi-finals. He was? What of it? What indeed. He was here with you until the semi-final, until he suddenly wasn't for the final. And just as suddenly your work went from being lauded for its flavour to being lambasted for it. I don't think that's a coincidence, do you? He wasn't just spending quality time with his father. He was playing a much more pivotal role than that. I just wanted him to see me hard at work, to show him I was trying my best for us. Who knows? Maybe it was him being here that helped me do so well in those early rounds.
Toxic again, but nothing about this guy screams super dad to me.
Indeed, thankfully we would only have to give such an idea credence if his story were true. After all, how much could the encouragement of one small boy affect the taste of a grown man's work? Mr. Gusto prided himself on the flavour of his creations, but then he lost his sense of taste. He must have had a tough time maintaining his high standards after such a devastating loss. Unless... I'm sure your son was here to cheer you on, but that wasn't all he was here to do, was it? You're a very suspicious man, Mr. Prosecutor, but why not try answering yourself for a change? What was an elementary school kid doing here other than to support his father? Your son knew the taste of your work pretty well, I imagine, Mr. Gusto. He was my biggest fan. Of course he knew it. In which case he would have been a good judge of whether something tasted on brand, so to speak, no? What are you implying? You've already told us that you were suffering from a taste disorder. I'll admit it. You're good. I never told anybody any of this, but you figured it all out anyway. It's true. 18 years ago, I developed Okusia. No one knew about your condition. Indeed, I doubt Mr. Frost would have wanted to continue collaborating with you had he found out. After all, it was your job to make sure his creations tasted good. Therefore, your son wasn't just here to support you. He was helping you by taste testing your work. Dang, now it all makes sense. Our stuff tasted good because it really was finished the day before, when the kid was still here. You have a vivid imagination, Mr. Prosecutor. But do you seriously think I'd trust a kid to tell me how to adjust the taste of my masterpieces? I have some pride, you know, even back then. Did you now? My designs may not have been much to write home about back then, but I always knew how my work tasted better than anybody else. You think I'd risk everything by putting my reputation into the hands of a child? This is just more speculation, that's all it is. In that case, I asked to speak with your son this instant. Let's see how much of your story he can corroborate. Sadly for you, my son is no longer my concern. What? As soon as I got my sense of taste back, I went straight to Zhangfa to start my training, and cut off all ties with the kid for good.
What?
You abandoned your own child? That ain't the half of it. No one knows where he is, even now. The cops have looked all over for him, but no dice. So, still think you can prove your asinine theory? I'd like to see you try. You think I care about anything besides confectionery? Think again. I got my sense of taste back. What need do I have for a son?
Silence in the courtroom. While Mr. Gusto's words and actions may demonstrate a certain lack of humanity on his part, the goddess of justice cannot judge him for that. Therefore, Mr. Edgeworth, I believe it is time for you to admit defeat.
Yeah, give it up. 18 years is a long time for anything to surface now. Prove or otherwise.
Mr. Edgeworth, we have to do something. If we don't, the truth might be lost forever.
Where are you, Detective Gumshoe? Can't imagine whose blood it could possibly be, but I'll get it tested right away, sir. Please do, Detective. The last piece of the puzzle, I'm sure of it. Once we know whose blood it is. Hey, Miles. Sorry to cut in on your mind palace time, but I was pondering something myself. Our friend Gusto didn't come here just to check up on the body, did he? I mean, because he tried to open the case. Exactamundo. Think we have anything that might explain why he tried to do that? We might, if Detective Gumshoe can make it back in time with a certain piece of evidence.
That's quite enough idle chatter, defense. Now if you...
But Mr. Edgeworth, sir, sorry to keep you waiting. Speak of the devil. I take it you have the test results, Detective. Oh, yes, sir. The lab just got back to me.
Detective, please. Court is in session. Now then, am I right to assume that you are bringing us the evidence Mr. Edgeworth was just speaking of? What? Hey, no fair. Why didn't anybody tell me about any of this?
Oh, it is indeed the evidence in question, Your Honor. It needed testing, so I asked him to carry it out.
What the... Why is everybody always helping you? I'm supposed to be the one in charge here.
Mr. Winner, I'm sorry I didn't involve you, but this is important. Can we at least hear what the detective has to say?
Well, alright.
So, Detective Gumshoe, what did the tests have to tell us? Well, you're not going to believe this, but the owner of the blood we found in the liquid at the bottom of the Gemini case is Cameraman Augusto, the victim of the poison gas attack. What are you talking about? Thank you, Detective. You've been very helpful. Well, looks like my suspicions were correct.
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, what do you mean? Explain yourself. What is the significance of this blood to the case? To this case?
Meh. It's only the very thing the perpetrator of the IS-7 incident has been trying to hide all these years. The fact that your blood was found inside the Gemini case, Mr. Gusto, is as good as us finding your blood lying right next to Mr. Frost's body.
Why would there be traces of your blood there? Of all places, Mr. Gusto.
If you won't answer, Her Honor, Mr. Gusto, then I will. There wasn't just blood in the liquid from the Gemini case. There were traces of salt and sugar too.
There were.
And if you remember, one particular part of Mr. Frost's work was allegedly very salty indeed. Oh yeah. You're talking about what Delicia told us back then, right? What was it again?
Did they ever? I never tried ice so scrumptious in all my life.
Really? Man, wish I could have had a bite.
Well, scrumptious except for the salty bit, of course. That was unbearable.
The salty bit? Passed.
It's in the other photo you got there. This bit, the harp thingy.
Gemini's lair. Yes, the lair. And only the lair tasted as if it had been flavoured with salt. There were no traces of salt anywhere else in Mr. Frost's entry.
Very interesting. Then perhaps you can tell us, Mr. Edgeworth. Where did the salt on the lair come from?
Take that!
Ah, the salt lamp.
This is the lamp from the IS-7 incident.
Indeed. And I believe that the salt lamp gave the lair its flavour. Indeed, and I believe that the salt that gave the lair its flavour came from just such a lamp. Mr. Von Karma had established that both salt lamps were in Mr. Tangaroa's room at the time of the crime. One of them was used to kill Mr. Frost. And it was stained with his blood. But no corresponding pool of blood was found in Mr. Tangaroa's room. Right, because the culprit had chucked the piece of chocolate with that on it into the little street. Furthermore, aside from the lair, no traces of salt were found anywhere else in Mr. Frost's room either. Hey, come to think of it, the lamps we found in Delicious' room were both broken. The lamps appear to be broken. The bulbs are smashed, both of them. Maybe they fell and broke on the floor? We never did figure out how the one that wasn't used to kill Frost got busted, but are we thinking maybe it had Gusto's blood on it at some point? Well, anyone whose blood was found on one of the lamps would have been a person of interest to the police. So the killer needed to hide the blood somehow, and in a way that wouldn't arouse suspicion.
And you are seriously suggesting that the lair was used to do just that?
I am. I suspect that the bloody salt was somehow applied to the lair so that it could be hidden inside the case. Because unlike the fountain water, the sculptures would have needed more time and care to test properly. And so he waited and waited for his chance to dispose of the lair undetected.
Then the reason he's here today is...
18 years ago, Mr. Frost's body and the evidence pointing to his killer were taken away together. This, of course, was not part of the perpetrator's plan, and thus a new dilemma arose. How could he be sure that neither Mr. Frost's body nor the evidence wouldn't be discovered someday. So he comes back 18 years later, sneaking in bright and early to try and cover his tracks. Well, Mr. Gusto, are you finally ready to admit it? That you are the one responsible for the IS-7 incident?
Mr. Gusto, it's because of you that Samson...
Gusto. Well, I finally got caught, huh? All these years later. Nobody came close back then, not even the big shot prosecutor or the attorney. That's some impressive work, Mr. Prosecutor. I have to hand it to you. You admit it then, that you murdered Artie Frost? Sure I do. I did it. I killed him. But he only had himself to blame. What do you mean by that? He agreed to help me. We were supposed to help each other so that one of us could win. And whoever won was supposed to let the other use the cookbook. On the day of the final, the rat finally showed his true colours. Seriously, Frost, we had a deal. Sorry, I'm not helping you in the final. Our little agreement is over, Gusto. But I helped you. Spent all day yesterday making the ice for your pieces. Did you? And you can prove that, I suppose. What do you... Wait, you were planning to betray me right from the start, weren't you? After Frost double-crossed me, I had to make my piece from the final by myself. And like you said, my son wasn't there, so I didn't have any help with the flavour either. So much for the pride you claim to have in your ability to make delicious desserts. Go ahead and judge. You have no idea what it was like for someone like me to lose my sense of taste. I gave up everything to become the best. Everything. I take pride in that. Something someone like you could never understand. You're right, I don't understand. Do you take pride in the fact that you resorted to murder? Or that you abandoned your son? Why would I want to understand someone who could do such things? A man can't afford to rely on other people. I learned that the hard way 18 years ago. My son never showed up on the day of the final. And in hindsight, I wouldn't be surprised if Frost was the reason why.
Why would you think that? What exactly happened to your son?
How am I supposed to know? I told you. None of my concern anymore. And according to you guys, nobody knows where he is now either.
You don't care. You're horrible.
So, with his disappearance, so too went your chances of winning, correct? Yeah. I had to find another way of getting my hands on that cookbook. That's when inspiration struck. I decided to skip afternoon tea and snuck into Tangaroa's room. Should have been so easy. All I had to do was to photograph the formulas I needed and get out of there. But then Frost showed up. I thought I might find you here, stealing recipes from the famous cookbook and... Frost. What's this? A cure for taste disorders? Oh no, that's just too tragic. A confectioner who can't taste anything. What will people say? If you tell anybody, I'll... Wah! You're what? You can't even hit me, you miserable worm. Why, you... Ross shoved me hard when I went to punch him. Knocked me clean off my feet. Crashed into one of the lamps. It must have been when my blood got onto it.
Mr. Frost wasn't the first to get hurt.
When it was all over, I realised I had to get rid of that blood somehow. Scraped off all the bloodied bits. I dissolved those salt shavings in some flavoured ice mixture, and brushed it all over the harp. And that's how you made the evidence linking you to the murder vanish. Frost was going to blackmail me. Would have made me give him money to keep quiet about my condition. So you decided you had to kill him. Yeah, I guess I did. Why would I let him live? Would you want someone holding something like that over your head? Besides, he's the one who drew first blood. Makes for a solid case of self-defense, don't you think? So that was the impetus behind it all. Anyway, I initially took the lamp to Frost's room. Went straight there once I'd figured out how I was going to hide the bloody part. Inspired by the ice sculpting tools lying about the place, I guess. I'm not as dumb as you pretend to be. Yeah, figured I could use them to chip it off and grind it up. Once that was done, painting the stuff all over the harp was easy.
But why Samson? Why did you have to frame him?
I never meant for the cops to pin it on him. That was your fault. You and the rest of them. Why do you think I went to the trouble of placing the lamps and cloths back in Scone's room? There's only one reason to plant the murder weapon in the room of another contestant. And that's to cast suspicion on that person.
What? You tried to frame me, Gusty Pants?
Yeah.
But why? Why poor old me?
I respected Tangaroa. He was the best. A true champion. I would never have wanted him to take the fall. But you're a fraud. Your work wasn't even real. You had no respect for our craft at all. You deserve to be punished for what you did.
Oh, Gusty, how could you?
And had you refrained from eating Tangaroa's work, Frost's blood would have been found. And had you refrained from eating Tangaroa's work, Frost's body wouldn't have been found. My plan was to wait until Tangaroa was judging your room. That's when I'd sneak the corpse into Frost's room and freeze it. Thanks to you, Bound here found it before I had a chance to retrieve it.
I don't understand. Why did you need to freeze his body at all?
Why indeed?
Mr. Edgeworth, surely you must know. Why did Mr. Gusto need to freeze Mr. Frost's body?
Mr. Gusto needed to freeze Mr. Frost's body in order to obscure the time of death. If they determined that the murder occurred during afternoon tea, he would have been an obvious suspect. Bingo! Freezing Frost's body wasn't simple. Preparing everything took time. So I decided to put his body in the chest in Tangaroa's room while I got everything ready in Frost's. At the time, it seemed like the perfect hiding place. Never counted on some gluttonous pharmacist showing up and making the whole ship collapse.
I still don't get it though. Why disguise the body as an ice sculpture at all?
The sooner it was found, the smaller the effect of freezing it would have had on masking the time of death. Therefore, he needed to disguise it, at least until it had fully frozen.
How awful. Using Mr. Frost's own work to help you cover up the truth behind his murder.
Ironically, Tangaroa would have been just fine if the body hadn't been found before I got it out of his room. If only things had gone to plan, he wouldn't even have been arrested, let alone convicted.
You mean it was my fault? Everything that happened to Samson? It was all because I found the body?
Don't let him get inside your head, Jules. None of this is your fault. If it wasn't Samson, it would have been Delicia instead. She would have been the one they arrested. Either way, there's only one person to blame here, and that's Gusto. Didn't help that the initial detective was so bad at his job either. He never even told the prosecutor that the body had vanished. So then Mr. Von Karma had unwittingly placed Mr. Tangaroa under arrest in the absence of a body. I mean, I guess it would explain why he was so keen to wrap things up. Still, you'd think he'd notice something as big as that if he'd taken a look at a few reports, right? Not if someone had been deliberately distorting the facts of the case, though. Either way, it seems that Mr. Von Karma didn't know about the body until after the arrest had been made. But admitting that would have spoiled his perfect record. So he kept it to himself, and proceeded to prosecute Mr. Tangaroa regardless.
Can this really be true? You don't feel bad at all? Somebody spent 18 years in prison because of you.
Sticks and stones, girlie. Sticks and stones. What a jerk! I ought to arrest you right now, pal.
I'm afraid I can't allow you to do that, Detective.
So you noticed her? Glad somebody did. The judge is right. You can't lay a finger on me.
What? Why? You just confessed to murder.
No idea, huh? I guess I better lay it out for you. I killed Frost 18 years ago. The statute of limitations for murder in this country is 15 years. You do the math. You can't arrest me. You think I'd have confessed otherwise?
That's right. The statute of limitations is only 15 years. Is this really the end of the line, Mr. Edgeworth?
Once the statute has expired, he can't be charged, so...
But... How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm afraid that both Mr. Gusto's confession and your deductions will have to be struck from the record, and that Mr. Tangaroa's conviction will remain in place.
But we've finally proven that the police never had Mr. Frost's body in their possession. Even if we can't arrest Mr. Gusto, surely Mr. Tangaroa has grounds for a retrial on that basis.
Does he? I wouldn't be so sure. I'm afraid that the goddess's judgments are somewhat harder to overturn than you might imagine.
So the committee means for the verdict from 18 years ago to stand no matter what. Bad luck, Mr. Prosecutor. There must be something we can do. Something to bring Mr. Gusto down. Dallas left the country.
Hold it!
The passage of time doesn't diminish what you did, Mr. Gusto. It sure diminishes one thing, though. Your ability to arrest me. Oh, we can arrest you. We can arrest you real good. I could have you in cuffs before you even blink, pal. Right, Mr. Edgeworth? This issue isn't as open and shut as you're making it out to be, Detective. You can't touch me. It's too late for that.
Hold it!
Depending on your actions over the last 18 years, the statute may not have expired yet. This ought to be good. Alright, I've got nothing to hide. If there's something you want to ask it. Very well. Tell us where you've been and what you've been doing since the incident. Sure. Not long after the contest, I was able to cure my taste disorder thanks to the formula from that book. And not so long after that, I went to Zhangfa to really buckle down and hone my craft. That explains a lot. We tried to contact you after the fact, but I guess you were long gone by then, huh? Could be. I left, let's see, around a year after the murder. It was before Tangaroa's last day in court. Moron! You just got yourself arrested. Anyway, going to Zhangfa was the best thing I ever did. Flavor, design, I'm the full package now.
Objection!
And all on the backs of those whose lives you destroyed. What's an omelette without a few eggs, hmm? Nothing, Mr. Prosecutor, nothing.
You're evil.
Sticks and stones, girlie. You can't arrest me, and that's all that matters. Oh, I need more to work with. There has to be something I can get out of him. Maybe I can push him further on the statements he just made. Is there anything I should follow up on? I'm not sure which one to bloody well push on. I'd like you to tell us more about your training in Zhangfa if you wouldn't mind. Fine. I later went to Zhangfa to train, and I finally became the best in the world.
Hold it!
Zhangfa, and you were there for a while, I imagine? Yeah, I left some time after the investigation had wrapped up. I'd been meaning to go there and start my studies for a while. And thanks to the hard work I put in. My designs are now world class.
Whoa, that's amazing.
You like it? It's yours.
Really? Alright.
We spent some time in Zhangfa training.
Hold it!
Never say never, Mr. Gusto. Nothing is impossible. Really? Come on, give it up. Your father couldn't catch me. What makes you think you can? Would have solved the whole case if it hadn't been for Mr. Von Karma obstructing him at every turn. Now the statute of limitations is threatening to inter the truth of this case forever.
Don't listen to him, Mr. Edgeworth. You can't give up. Not now. Doing this for your dad, so we have to see it through to the end.
Okay.
Truth is right there for the taking. What kind of great thieves are we if we don't grab it for ourselves?
I'm not a great thief, Kay, but you're right. Caramel and Gusto, I won't allow you to make off with the truth. Do your worst. I didn't mean to fucking do that. Yeah, shut up, I'm gonna have to read this all again in a second anyway, so... Fucking just let me get back to the testimony.
Hold it!
That was the only reason? Because you knew the statue had expired? Why else would I do it? Why would anybody? Not that I planned on it ever coming out, of course. And why was that? Because I'm finally the world's greatest confectioner. And petty stuff like this only gets in the way of me and my craft. So you're more concerned about you and your rep than the fact that Samson's still rotting in jail. I've seen some pieces of work in my time, but you're just flat out unforgivable. Who cares about forgiveness? I did what I did. I don't need you to understand any of it. Alright, Miles, it's official. Uncle Eddie is mad, and that doesn't happen very often. You're not the only one. But don't worry, you won't get away with this. Not if I can help it. Mr. Gusto is no ordinary opponent. He's gone 18 years without his crimes being exposed.
Think, Mr. Edgeworth, there must be some way for us to arrest him.
This guy's probably watched a few legal dramas before. He's no lawyer, not like you and me. There's gotta be some loophole somewhere we can use. There's just gotta. He's right, Mr. Gusto is just an armchair attorney after all. The statute of limitations for murder is subject to the following condition. The statute is suspended should the suspect flee to a foreign country. Which means that the time you spent abroad doesn't count towards the total time under the statute.
No way! So it's like someone hit pause while he was in Shangfa. It appears that there may be time left on the clock yet. But that will depend on how long you stayed in Shangfa, Mr. Gusto.
It was 3 years exactly. 3 years? Hold on. Nobody say anything until I done the math. The murder happened 18 years back. The statute is 15 years. At the 3 overseas?
15 plus 3 makes exactly 18, which means... no way! Mr. Edgeworth, you did it! The statute hasn't expired after all!
Bingo. 18 years exactly. Glad you worked it out for yourselves. He's just been stringing us along this whole time.
Why is he laughing? We're good, aren't we? We can arrest him now.
I hate to break it to you, little sis, but IS-7 went down at the end of December. It's April now, which means, strictly speaking, it's been 18 years and 4 months since Frost's murder. If Gusto's stay in Zhangfa really lasted 3 years on the nose, it's not enough. We're a few months short.
Not enough, but...
What did I tell you? You can't touch me. I hate to admit it, but he had read the board well when he made his confession.
How unfortunate, Mr. Edgeworth. If only the statute had been suspended for another year. Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price, should they fail. And you, Mr. Edgeworth, have failed.
Oh, there must be something I can do.
I knew it. If the law can't bring Mr. Gusto to justice, then...
Dudes, what are you thinking?
Objection!
There's no need to go adding to your rap sheet just yet. We're not done here. Far from it. Because there's still a way we can nail him.
There is?
Alright, Malzarino. Pep talk. I need you to think back over everything we know about the case. Gusto's overlooked one critical thing that you yourself were led to believe wrongly about. Which is? He wasn't there for Sampson's last trial, remember? Best I can tell, he doesn't know what the final verdict that came down that day is. Which means there's still one way left for us. Crack open your statue for dummies there and take another look. 17 years ago, they really did a number on Sampson and framed him like a pretty picture. But if we make good use of that verdict now, we can make Gusto pay in full for what he's done. And are you? Those who would overturn the goddess's judgment must be willing to pay the price should they fail. Sampson's my client, Miles. I can't bring myself to use the source of his pain as a weapon in this fight. So whether we play our last card or not, it's gonna have to be up to you. Bringing Mr. Gusto to justice can only happen if I use the outcome of that hard-fought trial. So, should I raise an objection and play that card or not? My father and Mr. Von Karma, one sought to reveal the truth, the other to hide it. I know which path I choose to follow, the one that seeks to reveal the truth.
This court has reached its final verdict. The record will state that Mr. Gusto has been found not guilty on all counts.
Objection!
No, Your Honor. Mr. Caramel Guzzo is absolutely guilty. And I refuse to let him walk away. His crimes are too unspeakable to go unpunished.
Do you mean to suggest that you have grounds upon which to call for his arrest?
I do. Now to show Judge Gowell something that proves the statute of limitations hasn't yet expired. Okay, I'm gonna give it there. As an accomplice, I suppose.
Take that!
Very well. Is there a particular page of the IS-7 case file you would like us to refer to?
Suspect data? I'd like to direct your attention to the page concerning the suspect. As you can see, Samson Tangerou was convicted as an accomplice. And it took around 1 year from his indictment for that verdict to be reached.
Yes, that does seem to be the case.
The book you gave us details certain conditions pertaining to the statute of limitations for murder. One of them, as I mentioned, is that the statute is suspended if the suspect flees the country. And another states that the statute is suspended from the time of any accomplice's indictment to the end of their trial. What? Tangerou was convicted as an accomplice? Yep, guess you were in Zhangfa when the verdict came down. Samson was convicted as an accomplice, not as the main perpetrator. Which is clearly news to you, and not good news either, am I right? But how can that be? Tangerou wasn't an accomplice to anyone. He was innocent and you know it. Oh, we know it. It's what we've been trying to prove all along. And in a pleasing twist of fate, his wrongful conviction will be the very thing that sets him free. If you spent 3 years in Zhangfa, and your accomplice Samson Tangerou was in trial for 1 year, it means you can still be charged with Mr. Foss' murder up to 19 years after the fact. In other words, the statute of limitations hasn't expired at all.
The goddess's judgment is infallible. But that of her servants, it appears, is not. It seems the prosecutor in charge of this case may have erred. Unbelievably, we may have no choice but to instigate a full inquiry.
No. How could this? You weren't supposed to be able to. 18 years ago. 18 years. That's a long time to let somebody else suffer for your crimes. It's time to pay the piper, Gusto. Not a moment too soon. But I'm finally the greatest. My brilliance has been recognized. Gave up everything for this. Everything. Even my son. More's the pity. But you can't run from the law forever, because the bills come due at last. Oh, Mr. Gusto's all set for his trip downtown, sir.
Oh, good. Which means it's your turn next, right? I suppose so.
Dudes,
I'm so sorry, everybody. Caused you all so much trouble. But thank you. Thank you so much for bringing Mr. Gutso to justice at last.
I'm afraid there's no escaping the consequences of your actions, Miss Pound. But those actions were born of the legal mistakes that were made all those years ago. We all know that. So allow me to apologize in return, on behalf of the prosecution.
Oh no, I have no one to blame but myself for it all, starting with those sculptures.
Hey Judes, you think maybe you might want me to represent you? I'm not some nervous newbie anymore. There's no way I'm letting you take the rap for everything.
Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you, Mr. Fender.
Sorry, ma'am, but you gotta come with me now.
Of course.
Judge Gavel, why did you lie to us?
Lie? What are you talking about?
You implied that there was no case for a retrial, but as we've proven, that wasn't true. Surely anyone truly committed to seeing justice done would have called one as soon as the body was found.
I am under no obligation to answer such questions.
And you clearly have no intention of doing so either.
Truly, you are proving to be quite a threat to the Committee for Prosecutorial Excellence. As such, you give me little choice to report back on your continued transgressions. No doubt you will be called to appear before the committee in due course. Now, I must be on my way. What the heck? Now you called the real killer and everything. Isn't that what prosecutors are supposed to do?
Regardless of how it may all play out, I will never regret what we accomplished here today.
Mr. Edgeworth. Hey, Mr. Edgeworth.
Yes?
Why did you stick your nose in this case anyway? You weren't even on the job.
My job is to bring the truth to light, Mr. Winner. Not only as a prosecutor, but as a person.
I don't get it.
I wouldn't expect you to understand, not as long as you believe that closing a case makes you a winner.
That's going way over my head. I'm going home. What was that all about?
Eustace still has a lot to learn is all.
Milesy Wilesy.
Yes?
I just wanted to say, old Greggy Pegleg would have been proud of you today. Oh, look at me all tearing up. That and thanks for helping poor Sammy Poopily.
Of course.
Hey, Hedgie, it looks like you cleared everything up, huh? So, what happened exactly? I was kind of busy sketching. Oh wait, where did Judy and Verity go? Well, you really weren't paying attention, were you?
I am loath to admit it, Larry's sketches did come through for us on more than one occasion. Not that I'm about to tell him that.
Get it with the glaring, will you? Whatever I did, I'm sorry.
Calm down, Larry, I wasn't glaring at you. You totally were. You're just like your pop. He was a terrible liar, too. He was? Listen, I'm gonna head out. Need to fill Samson in on what went down today. Wanna come with? Yes, of course.
Right, and I'm coming too. So, what's Mr. Tangaroa like? Can't wait to finally meet him.
Oh, he's a real sweetheart. You'll love him. Even while locked up, he can't help but make all sorts of cookies and cakes for everyone. Well, 3 p.m. cake extravaganza is a thing for prisoners and guards alike.
Really? That sounds awesome. Think there'll be any left for us to try?
Didn't we find a few slices of chocolate cake in the prison the other day? Could they have been some of Mr. Tangaroa's baked goods?
Gummy, what are you doing here?
Oh, I heard you all coming to see Mr. Tangaroa, so I volunteered to escort him. Hello, new friends. I'm Samson Tangaroa. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, at your service.
I'm Mr. Edwards' trusty sidekick, Kay Faraday.
It's very nice to meet you both. Miles here is Gregory's son. Is that so? Your father was very kind to me and fought so hard for my case. In the end, I betrayed him. I made a false confession and... Don't worry, Mr. Tangaroa. Miss Defender has explained everything to me. Sure did, and now we're here to tell you the truth about what happened 18 years ago. The truth? Judy did all that for me. Crazy kid racked her brain for 18 years until she'd finally figured out how to set you free. What can I say? Turns out she really would do anything for you. Oh, Judy. I never did anything to deserve such devotion. Come now, Mr. Tangaroa. I think we all know that's not true. The bond between the two of you has held strong for all these years, after all. You think so? I guess I'd better show him. Which piece of evidence is proof of the bond Mr. Tangaroa and Miss Bond share? Bound share, even.
Take that!
Those chocolates. Judy made them, didn't she? Yes, she did.
Super delicious and sweet.
Miss Bound continued making them just as you taught her, even after that fateful day. So that there would always be some waiting for you when you finally came home. Judy. I bet they're beyond super sweet then, aren't they? Very much so, I'm afraid. I only wish we could hand them to you. Well, don't worry, sir. I'll make sure he gets them later. Which would be a clear breach of prison policy. Not that I have the authority now to stop him anyway. Thank you very much. No, Detective. Something about you reminds me of Detective Bad. Really, pal? Because I look up to him a lot. He's my role model. You don't say. Seems fate likes to bring people of all sorts together, huh? You hang in there, Samson. Just a little longer. I should be able to get you out soon. I'm sorry it's taken so long. Nobody should have to wait 18 years to get justice. Don't be silly, Eddie. I'm the one who should be saying sorry. Or rather. Thank you. Truly. Samson. Well, I guess it's my turn to wait for Judy to come home now. I'd better make sure there's something delicious on the table for her when she finally walks through that door. Don't let me down, Eddie. Leave it to me, big guy. The IS-7 incident. It's been 18 long years, but this case we'd inherited from my father is finally coming to a close. Hey, Miles. Thanks for today. Sorry for forcing you to make the final call like that. Not at all. I simply made the call that felt right to me.
you guys talking about?
You know how Samson was wrongfully convicted? We had to pretend that he wasn't in order to nail Gusto. But to use his false conviction against him, even to save him. As his lawyer, I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now that Gusto's behind bars, I can finally start to get that wrongful conviction overturned. Yes, and I'm sure he will.
Wait a minute. Does this mean that even if you were only doing what's right, if the false conviction had been overturned before today, Mr. Gusto wouldn't have gotten away scot-free?
Yep. It's what we folks in the trade like to call a legal contradiction. The law is far from perfect.
Because of things like legal contradictions, right?
Yeah, but you never know. Things might change. Law's always evolving, just like us humans. Your Uncle Eddie and Miles Areno included, am I right? The potential for growth and change in people and the law, huh? So, Miles, you gonna keep fighting crime as a prosecutor, or help people as an attorney? Something tells me you got a big decision ahead of you. One only you can answer. I know. Well, let's just say I won't complain if you show up at the office one day. And on that note, time for me to skedaddle. Pay you big time, and I always repay my debts. But for now, thanks again for today. I mean it.
Did he seem kind of in a hurry to get out of here to you?
He did. And honestly speaking, I'm the one who owes him a debt of gratitude. After all, he gave me the chance to reckon with my father's final case. When I was a boy, all I ever dreamed of was becoming an attorney like my father. But then during my time with Mr. Von Karma, I learned the way of the prosecutor instead. Eventually, with the help of some good friends, I found my own voice and a new way to live. But now my career as a prosecutor is at risk of being taken away from me. Maybe time to take another long, hard look at how I want to live my life, whether I like it or not. Hey, Georgie. Sorry for reporting in so late. May have taken 18 years. But we're finally in a position to prove Samson's innocence. All thanks to your boy Miles. Couldn't have done it without him. Should have seen him. The way he fought for the truth gave me chills. Like I was watching you. Look, I know I'm not half the attorney you were. Those guiding principles you tried to instill in me, I like to think I'm embodying them now as I carry on your legacy. Here's hoping. Your boy will be joining me in that soon. Oh God, I'm thinking he's gonna die soon. Am I going to fight crime as a prosecutor? Let me read the damn thing first. Oh, thank you very much, game. Don't let me fucking read that. Fuck you. God's sake. That was something like, am I going to fight crime as a prosecutor? An attorney. Choice I have to make. Something. I won't know because you fucking have danced the text automatically. Wouldn't let me open the history log to read it. Piece of crap game. Ugh. Ain't it when you do that? Right, that's obviously Kay there, so I don't know what's gonna happen next. But I do know we're going to find out tomorrow. For now, though, that will be all. Bye.